Okay, first let's talk about the location of the incident. It is located at Pengerang Integrated Complex, in short form PIC, in Johor, Malaysia. And it is among of the one biggest integrated petrochemical facilities in the region. And it is reported that it's Petronas' most significant downstream investment until now, which is around 27 billion USD. So now let's talk about the event. Actually, what happened during that time is a fire occurred at 1:25 am at Atmospheric Residue Desulfurization Unit, which is currently under commission stage at that time. And it was learned that the cause of the fire and explosion were due to a leaking gas at the facility. At this point, we can relate it with the failures in workplace precaution. So, is there any response from the Petronas? It is stated that the Petronas Emergency and Response Team in RT deployed 5 fire engines with 30 firemen and were able to control and put out the fire within 30 minutes. This is the statement from the Kota Tinggi Police Chief Superintendent Asmon Fajar on media.
Next are the outcomes of the incident. I have categorized these outcomes into 3 parts. The first is the property damage or reports made. In terms of property damage, there were around more than 10 confirmed cases of damage to houses in Kampung Lebak, and more than 10 police reports made by locals related to the incident. The second is the harm caused to employees or the member of the public. In terms of people who were directly affected by the incident, there were 2 security male guards aged 28 and 30 that were injured from the fire ignited from the gas leak. Both of them were immediately sent to the Rapid Pengerang Emergency Center for treatment. Last is the environmental damage. The 24-hour polluted standards index since 1 am has been in the low moderate range, while the 1-hour PM 2.5 readings remain in band 1, which is normal, said by the NEA of Singapore. And also, the ambient levels of volatile organic compounds along the Singapore's coast remains within a safe levels.
Now let's talk about the potential consequences from this incident. What was the worst case scenario that could have happened from this incident? A chain reaction could have happened from the gas leak and a bigger explosion would have occurred. And what prevented the worst from happening? The security attention of the leak and immediate response from ERT prevented the worst from happening. Next, how often could such an event occur potentially? The recurrence potential is low since the ambient levels of volatile organic compounds remain within safe levels. And then, the severity potential, or what was the worst that could have happened from this incident. The severity potential is also low since only 2 local workers suffered minor injuries and received their outpatient treatment at Rapid's Medical Emergency Center. And lastly, how many could this incident have affect, or the population potential? An explosion of that scale could have resulted in hundreds of casualties, if not thousands.
Continue to the next topic, we will learn how to prevent the disaster occurrence in the future. Every employer and employee must play a role in this matter. Under employer responsibility, the management must guarantee that a detailed LNG safe work system is implemented and followed by every worker. The other action need to be taken is the employer should inform the contractor about the risk of LNG as well as the safety evacuation procedures to be followed if leakage happens. Besides human's role, the workplace also need to be maintained frequently to reduce the potential of incident. One of the methods is to build and put the LNG main emergency shut-off valve where it is conveniently accessible without obstacles. As an employee or a contractor, we must guarantee that the end pipes are sealed with end caps to prevent gas leaking even when the shut-off valves are closed. Furthermore, it is advisable for gas piping contractor to make sure There are no cracks in the tank or pipe to prevent unnoticed gas leaking. The other possible method is to make sure enough ventilation around the tank or pipe area, particularly in enclosed and tight areas where LNG might gather if a leak occurs.
In everyone's knowledge, the construction of a premise that is at risk of causing the danger of a major industrial accident is not as easy as opening a normal business premise. Not to mention when the premise involves the size of a large-scale industry such as Pengerang Integrated Complex. So all such premise must comply with all the provisions of the existing law before being allowed to operate. For example, in the Occupational Safety and Health Regulation 1996, so among the responsibilities of the employer is mentioned in rule number 10, the demonstration of state operation, which is to identify the possible dangers of a major accident and take adequate measures to prevent any major accident or reduce its consequences to people and the environment. Employers are also required to provide the necessary information, training and equipment to people working on site to ensure their safety, in addition to preparing and updating an adequate site emergency plan detailing how major accidents can be dealt with. For example, in this accident where ERT, Emergency Response Team by Petronas, dealt with the accidents efficiently, where they reduce the consequences to people and the environment without prevent any major accident happen. Okay, next is Fire Service Act 1988, where it functions as to make the necessary provisions for the fire service department to function effectively and efficiently to protect people and property from the risk of fire. So fire safety in building is taken to mean the protection of the occupants, property and environment from fire in buildings, comprises of two major segments: passive fire protection and active fire protection. The next one is the National Fire Protection Association, which is a global self-funded non-profit organization devoted to eliminate death, injury, property and economic loss due to fire, electrical and related hazard. So some of the related NFPA codes that related to the event is NFPA 30 and also NFPA 58. So for NFPA 30, where it focuses on provide safeguards to reduce the hazards associated with the storage, handling and use of flammable and combustible liquids. For example, where Pengerang Integrated Complex involved in handling liquefied natural gas, for example. So the industry benchmark for safe LP gas storage, handling and transportation and also use. So NFPA 58 mitigates risk and ensures safe installation to prevent failures, leaks and tampering that could lead to fires and explosion. So this where this event happened because of gas leak. So this code is related to the event.